Let me see. Yeah, you're right. Thank you. Okay, yeah, it looks like it's going. So thank you, Lisa. Okay, well, we weren't recording, but that's okay. We haven't really got too much into it. So, okay, so just stepping back for a minute. We're going into Pisces. And so the Pisces has so much to do with the closure before the new beginning in Aries. So this is where we are now. And Pisces can really take us into deeper zones. Pisces has to do with the deep unconscious. It's the archetype of all that is, the collective consciousness, the creator, God energy. It has to do with this stage where we come to basically the end of the ego into this idea or this reality of the egolessness. If we look at the evolution of the whole zodiac, beginning with the first sign, we start at Aries and go through all of the signs. When we finally come to Aquarius, Aquarius is like the peak of our creative potential and essentially the peak of the ego. And then when we step into the last sign, which is Pisces, it's like literally like jumping into this deep sea of where we surrender, we let it all go, and we come into this place of basically it's the stage before we begin again in Aries, and where Aries becomes all about embodying the self, coming into the ego, coming into identity. So that is where we're going as we move into the new season of Aries on the 21st, when the sun moves into Aries. And we start this brand new cycle. But for now, we're in this Pisces where we're at the end. It's basically the end of the entire astrological year. We're in the last sign before we begin. The spring always starts the beginning of the astrological cycle in Aries. So this is the time of release, letting go, and getting ready for when we step into Aries on the 21st, with the sun moving in and moving us into the new season of the equinox. The energy really shifts into this powerful, initiating, move forward, take action energy. And we're in a little bit of that as well. There's always, simultaneously various phases and energetics going on that we're experiencing. So there's definitely a very strong forward moving energy going on right now around creativity and moving forward in our life. We also have, as you can see here, I'm pointing to Mars is with the north node of the moon, and the north node of the moon is the symbol of the destiny. It's this forward motion energy. And so Mars is going to come around every almost 2 years to contact a symbol. So having it right now on this destiny symbol really shows us that it is a time where we are feeling that initiatory energy and moving forward. We can also say that it's a karmic time, as far as having a symbol on the destiny symbol opposing the past. So the south node is the past, the north node is the future or the destiny. So as Mars comes to the north node, it's also opposing the south node. And so this represents this sort of face off with the past and the future and where we are with it. So, and what we had go on last week, we actually had Venus was at the midpoint to the south and the north node, which was an energy where Venus was standing right at the center midpoint of these 2 points, our past and our future. So this whole past week, as we came into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that is what was happening with Venus. And that was bringing up these very powerful, potentially in all our lives, energies around relationships, money, where we are with love, and basically just our overall state of well-being and feeling good. And so, it can be a confrontation around those things. Where are we? How well are we doing with it all in life? Um, so we can see that as we have Venus in a really powerful position with these points, as well as Mars. Mars and Venus are both the relationship symbols. And so we are very much in a cycle that is having to do with relationship. And of course, it's going to bring up our own personal lessons around them. A lot of it has to do with our own personal truths and ideas. Of course, we can see this is playing out on such a wide scale across the entire planet. These north and south node of the moon are in Gemini and Sagittarius. And Gemini and Sagittarius are the signs that have to do with what we know, our opinions, our beliefs, how we communicate, our perspective, how we're seeing it, how we're interpreting it. So these symbols, the north and south node of the moon, stay in a sign for 18 months. So they have been just about a year now in Gemini and Sagittarius, and we can see how loud it's gotten out there as far as all of the information and all of the opinions and everything. I don't really want to get into it all, of course, right now, but it's that is something really strong that we're all sorting through too. Our perspective we have on this reality, how we're seeing it, how we communicate. So this is happening in our own personal worlds. And this month, it's just really about a time where we're in this space of having to be confronted with our own beliefs, with our own truths, how we're communicating, how we're showing up with people, and of course the people that are in our lives. So as we come into tomorrow, the new moon in Pisces, Pisces also it's really connected to on the one hand, Pisces has to do with the dream. It's the infinite potential, being able to tap into incredible imagination and creativity, and to really be in one's power as far as creating one's own dream. It's the dream come true energy. And on the other hand, it can be the opposite side of that, where life is so overwhelming, where there's so much, where we're feeling it all, where there's so much going on. Pisces has to do with escapism. It's where we find the addictions and the denials and the avoidance, and it's the veil. So it's like where we are potentially innocent or naive to understanding what's really going on, or where we're just not ready for it or not wanting it. So this can also be what's really coming up for a lot of people, this energy that it's all too much, in whatever ways that could be showing up in our own life. But it's the grand experience. Pisces is bigger than, larger than life energy. So it's where we can go into the dream and go into our highest vision, or it's where we can escape. So that's part of the, I guess I would say, the caution of the moment as well, around where are we taking it, because it's a it's there's so much sensitivity that we can feel in these realms with Pisces. How sensitive we are, how vulnerable we are. It has so much to do with love. And so we can really feel that in these moments too, with Venus, with Neptune, this incredible unconditional love force that's available to us. Um, the surrendering into it, the letting go into the not knowing. That's very much what Pisces is about. The not, there's so much beyond our understanding. And when we just have to surrender because we can't do anymore, or we don't understand anymore, or this can be it as far as when life is difficult, and it can also be the energy when life is so good. To be able to step into the ultimate version of self, or to be able to step into our highest visions and dreams, we also really have to surrender and allow it to happen. You know, there is the experience of having resistance to our own greatest life, to our own success, and all of that. We tend, that's basically we could say that that's really what addictions are, sort of playing a part in. We go for other things, to keep ourselves smaller or less than, or not experience the bigger potentials and possibilities that are there as well. Of course, this goes all into the worthiness issues and all of that, which is also an energy that can really come up with Pisces. So these are some of the qualities that can be coming up for us. And so as we move through, the new moon tomorrow is, so some of the main themes of the new moon is about releasing. Pisces new moon, it's about surrendering into letting go, again, before the new cycle, which is Aries. Our next new moon will be the Aries new moon, and will initiate us into a brand new take action cycle. I'm going to repeat just a little bit because I know that it wasn't recording for the first 15 or 20 minutes or so. And I'm going to take us ahead now. You'll see this program is really amazing, the way we can move ahead here. So the way the cycle works, if you don't already know, is that we have the new moon, and about a week later, we'll have the first quarter moon. 1 week later, we'll have the full moon. A week after that, the last quarter moon. And then a week later, again, we begin again with the dark moon and the new moon. So from each phase, again, the dark moon, where we are today, it's the last day of the cycle. We're releasing, we're letting go, and we're stepping into, the dark moon represents this unconscious, not yet here. So there's this seed impulse is coming with the new moon, and we're not yet in it. We may not yet be aware of it. So it can be that some of us are seeding new realities, but there's this level of releasing, letting go, and clearing space for what's to come at this time of the cycle. So as we step into the new moon, of course, we step into this new fresh energy. It's still a dark moon. There's not yet light. There's a lot of unconscious energy going on. And as the new moon begins to form again, as we see it, the crescent, and we begin to see light, this growth of energy. So from the new moon to the full moon, we're very much in this building, growing energy. And so if you follow the cycles, whether it's the moon or any of the planets, you can begin to see your own psyche and consciousness in alignment. So this is just something I feel like we're all naturally in alignment with nature. We just may not be aware of it. And of course, the more aware of it we are, the more we can recognize what is actually going on. So from the new moon to the full moon is this growth stage. And as we get to the full moon is always this culmination of energy. It's reached its peak. And so we can usually identify, if we're paying attention to it, that around the full moon, we reach a period where something has come into fruition, where things happen that we've been creating, whether it's something we've been creating over the 2 weeks, or we've been intending, or it's been happening in our life, or from before this. It's like full moons will show a culmination of some sort in our life, and full moons usually represent something going on more externally and socially around us. And the new moons can really represent a much deeper internalized process that's going on. So as we move, I'm going to move us forward a week now. So now here at March 20th, we have the sun now moves into Aries. And March 20th is the spring equinox. So the sun moves out of Pisces, moves into Aries. And I'm just going to move us ahead for a day. Okay, let's stay here for a minute. So at the first quarter moon, which is on the 21st, about a week after the new moon, the first quarter moons are this crossroads. They're basically the midpoint between where the new moon and the full moon is. So when we look up and we see that half moon, it's always what we call, or what I call, the crossroads point. So standing at that midpoint, it's in evolutionary astrology, it's considered the crisis point, the crisis either in action when it's the first quarter, and when it's the last quarter, it's the crisis in consciousness. So the crisis in action phase has so much to do with having to make a choice of what we're doing in life, because we're at that stage of the moon where it's building, the growing and the light coming to the full moon. This has everything to do about taking action and initiating creativity. And when we come after the full moon, that's the waning phase, and we're starting to sort of clean up the space and begin again to make closure, clear space for a new cycle. So when we get to that first quarter moon, we can see this is a bit of a powerful day. And I'm not going to so much go through every single day that in this call. As I go through over the next month, I'm going to be mentioning more of the days throughout the week that we can pay attention to and sort of work with. But we can see that at that first quarter moon, this is a powerful time, which is right around the spring equinox. It's basically next weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And because we have Mars moving closer to the North Node, and on that first quarter moon, you can see the moon is also here. So that's going to really also activate that energy. And again, that Mars on the North Node energy has so much to do with initiating new beginnings, really breaking free into the it's the singular independent self. That's so much what Mars represents. That's what Aries represents. It's Aries is the me energy, myself. So as we come out of Pisces, which is all that is, the oneness, being really emerged and submerged into the just how big and grand and all encompassing and vast and deep it can all be, which Pisces really brings us in. So that's where we are now in this moment, in the depths of it. And so, of course, each in our own way. As we do this transition over the next week into Aries, it becomes so much about the self. So it's now about like, okay, now that you've surrendered, you've released, you've let go of aspects of self. And many people are letting go of very old stuff. That is the thing with Pisces. Pisces can bring up very deep, very old, very family, related things that have been going on for a long time, whether it's decades or months. It's just like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to let it go. It's come through. I'm clearer. I'm going to let this go now. And so as we move into this Aries time, it has, it's about self. I want, I need, I'm going to go get, I'm going to have. Aries goes for what it wants, and it's all about an experience of self. And of course, there's always others. So it's not without confrontation, and it often is about confrontation when it comes to Aries, because Aries is all about standing in one's real desire, in what one fights for and stands for is what Aries is about. So we're moving into that over this next week. And not only is it just the Aries season that we're moving into, as I said, we also have the Mars on the North Node. Mars is the natural ruler of Aries. It represents that similar energy, which is like to separate from, to individualize, to be in that independent sense of self, as far as what do you want? What are you going to do? How are you going to get it? And it's about taking action. So, and it's also very potent as far as this moment in time, more so than we could say about other Aries seasons. Like, of course, every year we come around to this time and we're in the Aries season, and it is about initiating and moving into a greater sense of self and self-knowing and desire. But because this year the North Node is, because Mars is coming to the North Node at this time, that is just emphasizing this quality even more around. We will see in our own life how we will take certain shifts. Changes will happen. Mars Aries is about change, move into something, break away from something, and come more into your own desire. So that, as you can see, is March 20th. Mars is here on that North Node. If we just move ahead to a couple of days, 21, 22. So right here, you can see the degrees. Every sign has 30 degrees. So I'm not going to get entirely into that right now. But as you can see, the more two of the planets get closer together, that's more powerful and potent the energy is. And that's how we know that they're in their alignments or positions of how they're in relationship to each other in the sky as they're moving. And so Mars is at 13 on the North Node at 13 Gemini on March 26, which is just a couple days before the full moon. So here we have, I'm just going to set it to the full moon. So we're going to have the full moon in Libra this month. So here you can see it just shifted a little bit, but it moved up here. We have the sun at 8 degrees of Aries with Chiron and Venus all at 8 degrees of Aries. That is really powerful as far as, the sun and the moon. When it's a full moon, the sun doesn't necessarily need to be making contact with anything else. The fact that it's exactly where Chiron is in the sky, which Chiron is moving relatively slow. It's staying, it's only making a couple degrees a month. And having Venus also here. So Venus has now made its conjunction to the sun around this March 28th time. Like I was saying at the beginning of the call, this culmination of Venus to the sun is the closure of over a 1.5 year long cycle of Venus beginning its journey, coming back to the sun, and then starting again, which takes 584 years or 584 days for Venus to go around and come back, close the cycle, and begin a brand new cycle. So we're also in that. So again, like I was saying at the beginning of the call, there's so much energy around relationships right now, as well as money, and just basically how well we're doing this physical earth experience, which involves money and resources and partnerships and relationships. So this is the Venus energy, and so much to do with love. How well are we enjoying it? So during this full moon time, so we can see the moon is exactly opposite the sun on March 28th. We've come to the full moon in Libra, opposite the Aries sun. So of course, Libra is all about partnership. So again, what we always see in astrology, each and every cycle, is the themes playing out. So as I keep mentioning, at this time, it's very much about relationship, partnership, love. Money and resources comes into this, as well as being in this Pisces to Aries transition, which is about the end of major cycles and into the beginning of new one. It also has to do with the surrendering, really releasing and letting go, and then coming into the initiating the new. So we have that going on with the Pisces Aries, and we also have it going on a bigger scale with the Venus coming to the closure cycle with the sun and beginning a new cycle. And because this is actually happening on the day of the full moon, where we have the Venus beginning a brand new cycle in Libra, Aries, Libra full moon, it's definitely a really strong relationship oriented full moon. And when we look at the axis or the polarity between Aries and Libra, Aries is myself, Libra is the other. So there's this confrontation or this communication around in our own lives, our relationships, and just the contrast that we experience in them. And Aries, Libra, they really bring up the issues around how well we're understanding each other, how well we're communicating, what's being communicated. It's the interpretation of reality, as far as our perspectives, how we're seeing things, how we're getting what we want, how we're communicating what we want, and vice versa. And what we can see particularly on this full moon is the Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer energy. So it's powerful to have Chiron emphasized at this full moon time, and that new beginning time with Venus, the new Venus cycle, starting out with Chiron, really shows that Chiron, the wounded healer energy, it shows where we're feeling the pain, where we can see the suffering. that has been. And also where it's basically where the medicine is also there, as we go through and realize this pain and suffering in the world, in reality, in humanity, eventually we can gain the strength from it, and we can receive the medicine from it, which then becomes, of service to ourselves and to others. And so we currently have Chiron in Aries, which is the identity. It's our sense of self. It's our sense of purpose. It's our ability to act and take charge and stand up for ourselves. And of course, we can see this is all a huge theme in the world right now, as far as what are we doing and who are we, and our identities. Chiron has been here for a couple years now, ever since the whole COVID reality started and our identities took on an extreme turn. So this is a larger lesson that's playing out, and now on the full moon that's coming in 2 weeks, it's just going to be emphasized as far as this process that we've all been in around how we're being, how we're, what we're identifying with, how we're relating to ourselves, to love, to relationship, to life. Of course, we can see on a grander scale, it's we've been in the restructuring of it, the breaking down of so much of the conditions and the structures and how they've been existing, and basically coming into reestablishing stronger foundations. We're really in that process, and we can see that through the larger cycles. So identity is what's coming up with the full moon. So the new moon is really this release, letting go, surrendering, opening to more, if possible, more love, more of the dream. And the full moon has so much to do around initiating it, bringing it in, or at least coming into the reality of how can you, what is in the way. Aries also has a strong energy around, this is in my way, so therefore I need to break away from it or separate from it, become independent from it. So as we move forward, as we come into the fall, so after the full moon, we come through, and the full moon again is that peak energy. Of course, there's much more that can be said about each one of these cycles. Right now, this is just a bit of an introductory to what we're going to delve deeper into as we go through. Whoever's going to stay on for the whole lunar cycle course this month, and then continuing month through month is where we really start to dive deeper into each of the energetics of each phase. I will mention now, just for information, as we're following the lunar cycle throughout the month, what's interesting about it is that the moon, as the moon moves through each sign throughout an entire month. So as it does that, it contacts each and every planet in the sky, or we could say each and every sort of quality or aspect. And so that is one of how we can look at astrology, how each day has sort of a different flair, a different energy that's going on with it. So as we get to the last quarter moon, which is now moving into April, April 4th is the last quarter moon. So where that first quarter moon was the crisis in action, where we really, which is next week from now, where we can often on the quarter moons, it can be sort of, there can be a tension that plays out on that day or around those days around, it's the adjustment phase. What needs to be adjusted on the first quarter moon, a week after the new moon, before the full moon, a week before the full moon, that midpoint, which is next week, can be about what action do I need to, what do I need to adjust in the way what I'm doing, so that next week when the full moon comes, we can come into, we can reap the rewards to the highest potential possible for us. So those quarter moon times can really be an opportunity where we can look to that, look into see where we can make some kind of adjustment. And again, we're looking into the psyche here. So it always has to do with, becoming more aware of what's going on our own psyche. What are the things that we're becoming aware of, that we're feeling, that are coming at us from other people, that we're recognizing. So when we come to the full moon, of course, we all know that people can come into really intense, full moons can be really intense for many people. It's like intensities play out, peaks happen, we come into a feeling more. And as that full moon breaks, it's often very easy to feel the break in energy, even the day after the full moon, like, wow, that was some intense energies building up to that, and now it feels better. Now it's like, okay, not so much going on, and the light starts to wane, the energies start to wane. And here, as we come into the last quarter moon on April 4th, the last quarter moon is now that the flip side from the first quarter, it is the crisis in consciousness. So instead of the crisis in action being an adjustment to what we're doing, it becomes an adjustment to our perspective. How possibly could we shift our perspective as we move into the last week phase, which is where we are now? That last week phase of the potential and possibilities to release, to let go of, so that, clear the slate a bit before a new phase begins. So that is part of the whole energetic with that. And again, it's just going to be a continuing of what we're initiating, what we're separating from, the new that we're trying to establish and bring into our life. And then I'm just moving it to the next new moon, which I'm not going to get into too much, so not to confuse us, but we will see the next new moon plays out in Aries, and that's also going to be a very strong get up and go and do something kind of energy, which is a bit different from where we are now. And I will just mention, just for fun, that the following full moon after that will be a Scorpio full moon with Uranus, which always represents big changes. So that'll be interesting to see what comes through there. So for now, I think I'm going to open up to see if anybody has any questions. If anybody wants to unmute themselves and has any questions. Does anybody have any questions? Don't know if you guys can see me. I'm going to stop the share. You're welcome, Susan. Thank you. Okay, well, if nobody has any questions, then we will call it a day for today. So what I'm going to do for the next calls is basically I'm going to put out another link to go a little deeper into the charts and explaining a little bit more about astrology, how to read the chart on the full moon. I'm going to do another Zoom call like this. And then on my private Facebook page, each Friday on the quarter moons, I'm going to come on once or twice a week and just go over what's going on throughout the week in more detail and go through like that. So if you want to join on another Zoom call like this, where we'll go a little deeper in a couple weeks, you can look for the link on that. And thank you all so much for coming today. This was fun. All right. Well, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Happy new moon. I think you're all muted, so I'm not hearing, but I'm seeing you all. You're welcome.
Thank you, Jessica.
You're welcome. Take care.
Bye,
See you
Jessica
all
and everybody.
soon. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Happy new moon.
Aloha.
Aloha.